Hello guys, in this tutorial we will talk about lists in Python. So let's get to it. Lists in Python, especially if you are in the data science, machine learning, AI field, list is one of those data structures that you need to be familiar with, okay? What I mean by data structure, just in plain English, just think about as an object that allows you to store data in it, and you can manipulate the data with that object, basically. Okay, so you can loop through that object. You can store different types of objects, and then pretty much you can do whatever you want once you have your data stored as a list. So let's review the fundamental concepts of lists and how you can create lists and do some basic manipulation from the data science, AI, and machine learning perspective. So let's start by defining what a list is in Python. So a list is a built-in data type that is used to store collection of items. So one thing that I want to emphasize here is built-in, meaning that it's part of Python, of the core Python language, meaning that you don't have to install a Python library to create a list. Okay, it's part of the core language. Okay, so it's a built-in data type that is used to store collection of items. Okay, so here are some important characteristics associated to a list. So number one is order. Number two is mutable, meaning that you can change the values in a list. And number three is that allows duplicate elements. Okay, how you going to create a list in Python is very simple. You need to use the square brackets notation. Okay, it is a very simple example that shows how you can create a list in Python. So here I'm creating a list and I'm assigning the name called numbers. So notice that I start with the square bracket and I end it with a square bracket. And then between those two, I list the values that I want to store in that list, separated by a comma. So in this case, I'm using the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So my list called numbers has the integers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so that's one way that in some sense we're creating, or the one way of creating what I call a numeric list. Why I emphasize on numeric? Because all of the values are happen to be numbers. Here is another example that shows how you can create lists. They don't have to be numbers all the time. So in this case, we're creating a list called fruits, and the values that we're storing there are labels. So we have apple, we have banana, and we have cherry. So it's a list that has 3 elements in it. All of them are labels. Okay, that's basically it. That's how you can create a list in Python. So use a square bracket notation and enter the values that you want to store in that list separated by commas. That's basically it. There is no more to say about that. It's very, very simple, very, very easy to use. Now let's go to the next section. How do I access elements in a given list? So you have a list. If you already create a list, maybe you are interested on some particular element of the list and you want to quickly access that. So here are a couple of examples. So you can use indexing notation, and remember that in Python everything starts at 0. Okay, so meaning that, so for example, if I have this is my list, right? It's called fruits. It has apple, banana, and cherry. So we can see that there are 3 elements. And then if I want to access the first element, so that will be square brackets 0. And 0 refers to the first element, and that will print apple. Why apple? Because apple is the first element. This is the first, this is the second, and then this is the third. Again, from the indexing perspective, in Python, everything starts at 0. Don't ask me why, okay? Don't hate the player, hate the game, okay? Here, if I want to access the third element, so again, going back to the numbers list, so this is the first, second, third, fourth, and the fifth. So if I want to access the third element, so then I want to access 3, so then I need to enter 2, and the output will be 3. So because 3 is the third element, okay? I know it can be confusing at the beginning, but the more you start using indexing, or the more you start using indexing in Python, the more familiar you will get with it, and the less confused you will be with the indexing starting at 0. All right. Another cool feature of lists is that you can easily modify the elements in the list. Okay, so basically, for example, if I want to modify, again, let me rewrite this. Fruits is apple, banana, and cherry, in quotes. So if I want to modify the first element, so basically is looking at, if I want to modify, the second element, which is this one. This is the first, this is the second, and this is the third element. So if I want to modify this, if I want to replace banana with orange, so what I need to do first, I need to access the second element using a square bracket notation, and then equals, and then whatever I want to use as a new value, I enter that after the equal sign. So in this case, I want orange to replace banana, and if I print the list again, this will be the new output. So we see apple, orange, and cherry. Okay, so that's basically it. Okay, so if you want to modify a specific element of a list, you need to access that value using a square bracket notation like we have here, and then set the equal, and then whatever you want to use as the new value, enter that after the equal. And that's basically it. There is not much to be said there. Now let's move to the next section, list operation. This is another important concept when it comes to lists. So then you can append values, you can insert values, you can remove values, you can pop values. Okay, so let's go over each of those. Okay, so append, basically that adds an item to the end. Okay, so you have a given list and you want to add one element to that list, so you can use append, but keep in mind that it will add it at the end of the list. And what is the syntax? It's very simple. You start with the name of the list, that append, and then in parentheses, you need to enter the value that you want to append to the list. That's it. Insert, basically what it does is just add an item at a specific index. Okay, this is similar to append, but the big difference here with insert is that you can specify at what location you want to add the new value. Okay, so for example, in this case, we have fruits, insert number 1. So then that refers to the index. Okay, so that will basically, what it does, it would add the value grape to the second entry of that list. Okay, so the first element in the insert command in list, that refers to the index. Okay, the index that you want to add, that you want the new value to be at. Okay, and then the next operation is remove. Basically, as the name suggests, you remove an item by a value. Okay, so you don't need to specify the index, so you can do the list, remove, and then the value that you want to remove. In this case, I want to remove apple. That's basically it. Value or item to be removed. Item to be removed. Okay, and then pop is remove the last item. Okay, you remove the last item of a list. So then fruit that pop. So if you don't specify anything, it will remove the last item. Okay, so in my case, or at least based on my experience, these are the three that I use the most: append, insert, and remove. And by far, out of those three, append is the one that I use the most, followed by remove, and then followed by insert. Okay, so those are four list operations that you need to be aware of. That you need to be aware of. Okay. Next section, again, lists. They are very flexible. They allow you to store data, and they don't have to be of the same type. You can change the items. You can change the items. You can add items. You can remove items, and you can also loop through the list. Okay, so this very simple example shows how you can loop through the list called fruits. Okay, so for fruit, in fruits, so we're printing a like and then the I element or the fruit element of fruits. So in this case, assuming that, for example, my list is, let's assume the fruits is apple, orange, and cherry. Okay, so then, oops, I put it in the wrong location. Let me move up a little bit. So if I assume the fruits is, again, apple, orange, and cherry, what this does, it will print, we will see the following. We'll see I like apple, then I like orange, then I like cherry. That's basically what this for loop does. Okay, so we're looping through the items in that list. Next is we can also slide a list. So for example, if we are interested on the first two elements of the list called fruits, and let's assume that this is the list right here. So this command right here will print, oops, let me change the color. This command right here will print apple, and then it will print orange, because those are the first two elements. Again, when it comes to indexing in Python, everything starts at 0, and then this will go all the way up to the second element. So apple and orange, those are the first two elements. Okay. Next section is importance of lists. Okay, yeah, as I mentioned before, lists are very, very, very important, especially from the data science, machine learning, and AI perspective, because it allows you to store data, and then once you have your data stored as a list, you can start doing manipulations with it. Okay, so here are four important points of lists. Okay, so number one is they are a flexible data structure. Okay, they can store any type of data. Okay, and keep in mind that the data, they don't have to be of the same type. Okay, and just to add on the flexibility, you can create a list that store a list in it. So you can have a list of lists, and each of the lists that you are storing on the bigger list, in some sense, they don't have to have the same number of elements, and they don't have to be of the same data type. So which is a really, really cool feature. Two is dynamic size. You don't need to declare in advance the size of the list. Okay, so in the previous tutorial we talked about for loops, right? For a for loop, you need the starting point and ending point. Here, you know, with list, you don't need to specify the size of the list. You just need to add data, and that's it. Okay, so it's dynamic size, so you don't need an ending point in some sense, right? And assuming that you have enough memory in your computer, you can store lots of data in it. Three is it has built-in methods. So Python provides many convenient list methods. Number four is lists are one of those data structures that is widely used, not only in the data world, but in Python programming in general. Okay, because because of its flexibility. Now let's briefly mention a couple of drawbacks related to lists. Okay, number one, they are slower for large data sets. And what I mean by large data set, think about hundreds of thousands of rows that you may have in a data set. If you are running into that scenario, a list may not be ideal because they may, if you store the data as a list and you're performing some sort of operations with that list, things can get slow. Okay, so then for that reason, lists are not ideal, especially when you are working with large data sets. If you're working with a couple of hundreds of rows or maybe a couple of thousands of rows, you won't notice the difference. Number two is inefficient insertion and deletion. Okay, inserting or deleting in the middle can be slower than arrays in some languages. Okay, again, if you're working with small data sets, you are not going to notice a difference. But then the moment that you're working with bigger data sets with lots of information, you will notice that, yeah, it's inefficient because it's slow. Okay. Number three is memory usage. Lists use more memory because of their dynamic nature. Okay. So again, and those three drawbacks, they are related to how much information you are allocating or you are storing in the list. The more information, the more data you store in the list, the slower things may get. Okay. So just to sum up, so lists in Python are versatile, dynamic, and easy to use. Okay, they are ideal for the most small to medium scale data storage and manipulation tasks. Okay, so lists, again, I cannot emphasize how important they are and how much I use them. Okay, so lists is just one of those data structures that you must know. Okay. All right, so now let's go over a couple of exercises just to practice these different concepts associated to lists. Okay, so let's get to coding. All right, guys, so here we have a couple of exercises related to lists that will help us to not only clarify some of the concepts, but also just to get us more familiar with lists and different list operations. So here we have 9 exercises that will help us to practice concepts associated to Python lists. Okay, so exercise 1 is we're going to create a list and we're going to call it colors, and we're going to store 3 values in it: red, green, and blue. So let's start with that. So colors. Then again, anytime that we are creating a list in Python, we need to use the square bracket notation. So then I type red, green, blue. Okay, and then if I want to see my list, so then I run this. So yeah, so that's how you can create a list. Next says print the second element from the list called colors. So then notice that here we have 3 elements, and I don't need Python to know how many elements, but in general, if you have a big list and you want to find out how many items or how many values you have in it, you just do length of colors, and that will tell you how many values you have. So in this case, it says 3. Okay, so here, this particular exercise is asking us to print the second element. So this is the first, this is the second, okay? But again, keep in mind that when it comes to indexing in Python, everything starts at 0. So if I want to print the second element, so then that refers to 1 when it comes to indexing. And we see green because that's the second element, okay? All right, exercise 3, it says change green to yellow in that list. So again, if we go, let's print colors again. So I want to change this. I want to change green to yellow, but green is the second element, okay? So the easiest way to do that is just you start by typing the name of the list, square bracket, and between the square bracket you need to enter what is the item that you want to update or change, right? So in this case we want to change green, which happens to be the second item in colors, but again we're gonna be using indexing, so then it's 1. So if I run this, it prints green. Now I want to change this to be yellow, so I just do equal, and then after the equal I enter yellow in quotes. And now if I print colors again, now we see there is no green anymore. Now we see yellow. Okay, so that's the easiest way to change a specific the value of a specific item in Python, in a Python list. The next exercise is add orange to the end of the list and pink at index 1. So here is we want to do two things. So then first is again colors. Let's print it one more time. We want to add orange at the end. So then that's basically we need to use append. So colors that append is double P. And then here I just need orange. And now if I run this, now I see orange at the end. Okay, so we're done with the first half of the exercise. Now I need to add pink at index 1. So that has to do with insert. So colors that insert, and then the first argument is what is the index number that you want to use to insert this new value. It's the first, and then here is pink. Let's print colors again, and we see that first, excuse me, we see the pink now is on the at index 1. Okay, again keep in mind that this is the index location. Okay, all right, let's go to exercise 5. So it says remove blue from the list using remove. Okay, so let's print the list colors again, and we want to remove this one right here. So let's use the remove command. So colors that remove, and then what I need to specify is what is the item that I want to remove in between the parentheses. So in this case I want to remove blue, so I just type blue there. And then if I print colors, now we see the blue is gone. Okay, exercise 6 says remove the last element of colors with pop. So again, let's print colors one more time, and we're going to remove pretty much orange, right? And we're gonna use pop for that. The colors that pop, and then we're gonna print colors. And now we see that orange is gone. Okay, so pop by default, it removed the last item of the list. Exercise 7 says use a for loop to iterate through colors and print the items. So again, so this just highlights that we can use for loops on a list. So we start with for color in colors. Okay, then we print color. Boom, that's it. Red, pink, and yellow. And it doesn't have to be color because sometimes you can get confused. Let's use I. For I in colors, then print I, and that is the same thing. Okay. So moral of the story is that we can loop through lists. We can. Exercise 8, print the last 2 items of colors, or excuse me, print the first 2 items of colors using slicing. So again, colors is red, pink, and yellow. So then we want to print red and pink. So basically what I need to do is just square brackets 0 column 2, and that will print red and pink. So exercise 9 says consider the following list all numbers that has these values in it. So report the mean, the minimum, and the maximum. So this is getting more onto the data exploration side of things. All right, so let's get to it. So let me copy this here into here. So numbers. So as you can see, so here we have the list called numbers with those values. So then let's find the mean. Okay. Mean is gonna be what? The mean formula is just you add all the values and divide by how many values you have. So if I want to add all the values in a list in Python, I can use a command called sum. Okay, so sum of numbers. So that adds all the values. And then now I need to divide that result by how many values I have. Okay, given that this is a list, as I show you here, if you want to find out how many items your list has, you can do just length, right? So then on that, we can use the same logic here, divided by how many we have, and that will be the mean. So and then we can print the mean of the numbers is mean. Okay. Then the next task is to find the minimum. Okay, when it comes to finding the minimum, we can rely on the minimum function. So let's call it mean is equal to the mean of the numbers, and then print the minimum of the number is mean. And very similar, we can do something similar for the maximum. Max. The mean is one of those functions in Python that will allow you to find the minimum of a set of numbers. Max does the opposite. It finds a maximum of a set of numbers. So let's run this. Oh, there is a typo here. Len is supposed to be len with an N, not an M. And here are the values. So this is the mean of the numbers, 31.57. The minimum is 2. We can easily see that. The maximum is 75, and we can easily see that. So at this point, you may think that this is just too simple because we are working with small data sets. Basically, we just with 7 numbers. But again, the bigger the data it gets, so computing the mean just by eyeballing the numbers, or extracting the minimum or the maximum by just eyeballing the values, this is not going to be easy. So then at that point, knowing how to extract the minimum, the maximum, or how to compute the mean of a list of values, it will be important. So yeah, so these are all the exercises that I have just to get you familiar with creating a list, accessing values, adding values, removing values, looping through a list, and doing some basic summary statistics calculations with the list. Okay. All right, so that's all I have for this tutorial. See you on the next one.